1993 when the forward pass first became a tracked statistic in the NFL. That's how good they've been. So we can talk all we want about Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sonic and Knuckles and all those guys. But Andrew Hawkins, tell us who was the real MVP of the Detroit Lions.
Playmaker, Penei Sewell.
Let him know.
Offensive tackle, because he's not only the 11th man, he's the 12th man. Look at him get out in space. First off, punch the D into the pavement. Who's he going to block? Every damn body. He's blocking 3 guys on this play and running the 40. So if you ever wonder why O-line run the 40, this is why. Here goes the screen game. Again, you block 2 guys. Not only reach them, you seal them in to create the tunnel. And lastly, this is what it's called a duel, is what I'm told. But he's blocking 2 guys in pass protection. Like I said, when you have Penei Sewell on the field, it's like you have 2 blockers for 1.
That's Hawk getting the job done here. We gave the guys a homework assignment because, Jeff, you wanted to make the case that he has no chance of winning the award, but that that people who really know football would say Penei Sewell could be the offensive player of the year.
No doubt. When you talk about the offense and what it's predicated on, it's predicated on physicality. He brings that. Hawk just showed it. It's not just in the run game. They move bodies off the line of scrimmage. Watch him. Check him out right here. Going to get people, pushing him. You see, finishing the runs, right? Pushing him in the end zone. The trap technique, getting guys on the ground, going to get the second body. All of those things matter offensively. And we talk about kind of unrealized yardage or secret kind of hidden yardage in games. He creates it because of his physical presence. The screen game, again, him being able to get to the second level, knock bodies down. Their entire offensive line is fantastic, but Penei Sewell, the athletic ability he has, coupled with just the massive human that he is impressive.
Yeah, the athleticism that he has, it stands out. And I think that we appreciate the numbers that Jared Goff puts up, but a lot of these numbers are built on the fact that this offensive line dominates people and that they can give Penei Sewell jobs that other offensive lines do not have the ability to even consider. So like some of those plays that we were seeing, that dual block that you call, like, he went outside back to inside. Like that. Apparently that's something that people can do. I didn't think it was possible, but I don't think that most tackles pull that off.
Oh, go ahead.
So this is why after that beatdown of the Jaguars, Dan Campbell talked about his team, and he talked about how great they are, but he said when our O-line plays like that, it doesn't matter what play we call, because we can do anything. That's why this team is so good, and that's why it was so great that he was able to highlight the O-line, because we talk so much about the skill players, but it really is like Sewell and those guys doing the dirty work.
Let me explain to you the Jared Goff phenomenon, because he's had an insane season, the incompletions, all this kind of thing. The way that they block, the way that Hank has these guys, offensive line coach, has them blocking inside out. You saw the sift. Is it allows Goff to pick apart the inside in between the hashes. And he makes so many plays that are vital for this offense, and the receivers make it in yards after the catch because they get it running. And they have done a phenomenal job of not worrying as much about outside, but allowing Sewell to sift that last play is what gives him that inside presence. So Goff doesn't move off his spot. They don't get him moving. They don't get him out of rhythm. It has been a special season for this offensive line for sure.
Yeah, I mean the Lions. The question is going to be, can anybody play with them in the NFC? Whatever it is, we'll talk about it later. The Eagles look good. They've got a lot of man for man. They look like but the Lions look like a finely tuned machine. What do you think?
I mean, come on. I think we're looking at this the wrong way. No, they didn't score an offensive touchdown, and they still beat the second leading scoring offense and held them to a low in points, held them to a low in yards. They're 4th in takeaways, 4th in the lowest or 2nd in the lowest passer rating against quarterbacks. This defense is legit. When you have a defense that is this good and someone like T.J. Watt leading it, it's special. The secondary is special. So I understand that, but they are beating good teams. The Ravens are a Super Bowl contender, and they bullied them.
Where are the points? Is my question.
They had scored a lot of points since Russell came in against a bunch of bad teams. You know what, Ash? I'm going to stay on this for a minute. I know we're supposed to move along here, but I actually kind of like this topic because I will tell you I'll tell you how I saw it. Going into the game, I was all prepared to say, no, the Ravens are legit, and the Steelers are not. They've been a great story with a great coach, and the Ravens are going to show who's who this week. And you know what? The opposite happened. In the NFL of today, it's all about offenses and it's all about MVP candidates on the offenses. Well, the Steelers are that good on defense, and TJ Watt is an MVP candidate.
These two teams are division rivals.
Yep.
So these are always going to be one-score games between the Steelers and Ravens. If you know anything about these teams, you knew that was how the game was going to play out. Now, when you're not playing the Ravens, show me what you do against the Chiefs, what you do against the Texans, what you do against the Bills. Like, those are the teams that you also have to contend with.
I've been thinking a lot about the Steelers as legitimate Super Bowl contenders and trying to challenge myself to remove whatever biases I have about how good I thought this team was going to be and look at them as honest as possible. And I think what stops me from saying that they're legit Super Bowl contenders is that they can't win in a bunch of different ways. There's like one game script that they win by. And I know you said they've scored points, but when you watch those games, it's because George Pickens goes off on a bunch of big, miraculous catches. I don't see them winning in a shootout where they're dependent on Russ to continue to cook week in and week out.
Who's getting them in a shootout? Who's getting that defense in a shootout?
That's the problem, is you are assuming that in the modern NFL, at some point, you're going to have to score some points. You're going to have to do it. Like through 3 weeks of the postseason, someone's going to put up 30 on you. Like, it's just the way. If they can shut everybody down, then more power to them. It's just unlikely. That's my point. They could win a couple of games like that, but there's going to have to be one game where the offense is going to have to pull them through.
I agree they'll have to score points at some point. They have an incredible defense.
Hear that sentence you just said?
Yeah, well, I understand that. And they only scored 18, but they were scoring points, a lot of points previous to this. Their offense has looked the best that it has looked. Yes, George Pickens is great, but he's going to be great. And then they win with Mike Williams on the other side if you play a safety over top. I'm just looking at this team and looking at all the answers that they have to the questions that are going to come throughout the season. Even the wins they have are more impressive than we thought. Yeah, as somebody who would have to be in the locker room, it would create a little bit of, I don't know, if the quarterback and the head coach are father and son. Because there's in NFL locker rooms, there's always this kind of sanctity of the locker room, right? It's the players, then there's the coaches, and then you also have the front office. And there's like this expectation that you're able to speak freely and that your relationships, one in and of themselves, are independent. If the coach doesn't like me, and then I feel like, well, does that mean the quarterback that has a thing with me? Or if I get into it with the quarterback on something, does that mean that the coach is going to make decisions in a certain way? I think Deion Sanders is the best available head coach. I think Shedeur Sanders is the best available quarterback. I think it's going to have a lot more questions than answers with the opportunity to put them in the same organization. Yeah. It reeks a little bit of like Little League football. And I know it's worked in college, but I just feel like in the pros with so much money involved,
I think so. This is going to be tough. This is such an unprecedented situation. Yes. We don't have anything to look back on. So, like, I can follow that logic and say, yeah, that's a bad idea. But I could create a whole nother structure where it's about your quarterback and coach having confidence and trust in each other, where it seems like it is a good idea. Mm-hmm. I do think, though, your point is something I think most people can relate to, is like if the boss's kid is in there, like we all like to complain about our boss. Like, it's something we like to do.
It's a part of the work experience.
Yeah, and if you feel like you can't do it, the problem that I would push back on you is that guy's always in the locker room. You just don't know who it is. Yeah. Like, at least you know who it is in this case. Like, I wouldn't be concerned about it. All that matters.
What do you mean by that? What guy's always in the locker room?
There's certain players that if you say something in front of them, it's going to make it
flip.
And the general manager.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Them guys in the locker room, everybody's there.
But you're saying you don't know who it is.
It's like a hot mic in this world.
I understand that part of it. What I'm saying is, you're saying that there's that guy on every team, but you don't know who it is.
I mean,
do you ever talk freely?
No, we do talk freely, and then we have speculation, and you figure it out. Like it's a thing that happens in every life.
It ain't rocket science.
You can figure it out. It's a guy who ain't contributed that much, but all of a sudden he just happened to dress every week. Oh, we re-signed him.
Wait a minute, he got labeled a captain.
Well,
for him.
Wow, yeah. Oh, there's stories in the media about how he's so impactful in the locker room. Yeah, he's a positive guy. Like, it ain't hard to figure out who the guy is. It ain't hard to figure out who the guy is.
So if I just present to you right now, Jeff Saturday is a guy who, I mean, you were on great teams with strong leadership, right? I mean, you got Tony Dungy, who's one of the most, and then obviously Peyton Manning and everything else, and you were one of the team leaders. If I present to you, Deion Sanders is the coach and Shedeur Sanders is the quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders next year, how do you like it?
I don't love it. I agree with Hawk on this. I think it would be difficult. There's a lot of things that happen on the field and in practices that there's going to be some frustration between each other. And the last thing you want to feel like from the head coach's side is it's his son. And now Deion might be able to do it differently. I'm not sure. I haven't had experience with Deion to know, but I would tell you, I would feel the same way Hawk would, right? Whose fault is it really, right? Like, how much pressure is being placed on other guys around? That would be difficult for me.
I agree, but I'm wondering if Shedeur coming up in this world makes it kind of moot. From the standpoint of his dad, college is different than the pros, I get it. But his dad is a Hall of Famer. Like, his dad has coached him hard. He's watched everything. He understands. He's come up in locker rooms, essentially. And so I wonder if that just makes it sort of different.
It reminds me a little bit of NBA stars where they have a lot of influence and you might feel in the locker room that this guy can make the decisions. You might feel that about Shedeur, but I think it's good conversation, but none of that matters. If Shedeur can ball and they win, it does not matter. If he stinks, it doesn't matter who his daddy is. The team thinks, like, that's what it comes down to. If the quarterback can play in the team,
what if it's mid? That's the problem for me is if it's mid, right?
If it's mid, it ain't good enough.
But that's my point. Like, we've seen a lot of guys that's where it becomes the issue. If he's not really the guy that you expect to be, he's not really the franchise guy. Like, then where does it go? And it gets difficult, right?
Well.
And it gets, you
all you got to do.
That's the easy.
Play well, and all
but you got to plan for the worst case scenario.
Right.
No, the worst case scenario is he's going to get fired just like any other coach combination, whether they related or not.
Deion would fire him.
No, I'm saying the coach is going to get fired.
Yeah.
So it's no different than any other coach or coach-player relationship. You attach yourself to a quarterback. This way, they're already really attached. But as a head coach, you're kind of attached to that quarterback. The quarterback stinks, you're out. The quarterback's good. It don't matter what they talk about in the locker room.
Man.
It's just the way it is.
I've been saying forever, I'm in the interesting business. I can't think of anything more interesting that could possibly happen.